Oh, right now.
Yeah, right now.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to your weekly damage check, or your weekly wreckage with your boys, damage check. Man, that was totally scuffed. But you know what? We'll keep on going. As usual, it is me, Fjord, here. Hello, welcome. It's me. Hi. But more importantly is my great friend, HP. HP, how you doing today?
Doing better. I know last week I had a little with the whole medical thing. Figured out pretty much nothing, but supposedly whatever we did find out that it was nothing. But we'll get into that, I guess. So more updates hopefully soon.
More updates hopefully soon. Hopefully good updates. Hopefully nothing too crazy going on. Well, let's start out the podcast as we always do by saying what you've been playing, HP. What's going on?
I heard that you have only a couple of things, or like maybe one or two things. I have about 4 or 5 that I want to run through rather quickly, but I still would want to hear your take actually on, because I know one of the things you've been playing and then the other. So what have you been playing actually, my friend?
Oh, okay. Starting out with me. So I've been playing Helldivers 2 pretty much exclusively almost this entire week. I've been spreading managed democracy to all of our enemies and spreading the love that is Super Earth. I mean, there's not much more I feel like I can add on from last week other than this game is just it's fantastic. I absolutely love Helldivers 2. I think they really struck some gold here with the formula that they have to where a lot of games, they have to have rewards to get you to play. And so last night, rewards were broken to where, you weren't exactly getting all the rewards you're supposed to. And I didn't even care. I just wanted to play. I just wanted to get in there and I just wanted to hell dive.
So the funny thing is I've been hearing about this game and how good it is, despite being apparently, for multiplayer at least, in a co-op oriented game, pretty damn broken. And
I mean, it's a dumpster fire right now.
But let me tell you this. This is one thing that I love. I haven't played it. I still don't think it's really for me. But one thing that I love is that I constantly, and I'm not even in the sticks, I don't even play the game, but I constantly see the dev team responding to people and telling people it'll be okay. They're sorry. They're working on it. Blah, blah, blah. The fact that the dev team is so active on social media to tell people they're working on it, fully commend. I could not be more supportive to a company that does that, because, and we know in the past few live service or multiplayer games that we've gotten, we just don't get responses like that anymore. So kudos to them for that.
Yeah, definitely. They've been very responsive. They've been telling people, yes, we know there are problems. We're working on them. Some people are still complaining that they're not being worked on fast enough, but game development's hard, guys. It's not always going to get fixed immediately. You're not always going to have everything you need right off the bat to fix it, especially since these guys have now gone on record basically being like, we didn't even expect pretty much like a quarter of the success they've gotten from this.
Right.
They expected around 50 to 80K concurrent maximum. And just about an hour ago, they were hitting 331 just on Steam. And so these guys have far exceeded their original expectations, especially for a game like this where, again, this game is kind of niche. Like, there's no other game you can really point to. It's not like they could have pointed at to another audience and been like, oh yeah, we're going to do about as good as that other game. There's no real other game like this. I think the closest thing you could get is Deep Rock Galactic. And even then, I mean, it's still pretty markedly different. And so, yeah, the co-op, I will say, even though the multiplayer is broken, it's only really broken if you're trying to matchmake, which hasn't really been a major issue for me because I've just been going to friends or even going to like LFG servers and just being like, hey, let's group up and go. If you're grouped up, you could kind of drop in generally no problem. Like, you might have somebody crash here or there, but I have not had nearly as many issues. It's if you try to use the quick play functionality, which is like, hey, just drop me with like some random people that are on a mission. That's when things start to get a little more weird and not working as well.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the game is fantastic. I just hit level 20, so now I've reached the point to where I can unlock everything if I had the resources. I obviously don't have the resources as far as unlocking all the drops and everything, but I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, I keep on playing. They've introduced like new types of missions this week where now our planets are getting invaded. And so instead of trying to go liberate planets, we're now defending planets, which has added in like a whole nother stream of, gameplay and different ways you can approach things. I'm now starting to get into the difficulties where builds are starting to become more of a thing. And it's less like, oh, I can just bring in whatever I want. And now it's more like, I could bring in whatever I want, but if I make it all synergize and make a build out of it, I'm going to do a lot better and I'm going to have a lot funner of a gameplay loop. And so it just keeps on getting better and better.
I love that.
I think I actually want to write like a full review of this. So maybe in the next week or two on a damage check, I'll give you guys kind of a full review and kind of my full thing. But if I was to score it right now, I think it's a 5 out of 5 amazing. Despite all the issues that it does have with like some of the server stuff, that's server stuff. It's gonna get fixed. Depending on the time of day, you probably won't even run into a lot of those issues. And so I would definitely call it a 5 out of 5 right now.
I did see another thing, excuse me, where the devs were also saying they didn't want, like people were asking if there was ever going to be PvP. And they said absolutely not, because we want to keep it a toxic free game and stuff like that. And whether or not that's the core message, or they just don't want to, good for sticking to your guns. Stop catering to people. You make the game you want to make. Stop catering to people what the people want. Like, if you want to make the game you want to make and you don't want it to be PvP, then don't let it be PvP. Who cares?
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times on the show, where it is just like, commit to your vision. And I think that they have done extremely well in that, because they could have done a bunch of things to try to cater to a larger audience and stuff like that. But in reality, I feel like have gotten a larger audience because they stuck to a vision. This is the vision of the game, and we are going to build everything around that vision. And I think that ended up leading to a lot of the success they're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other than that, I have been wanting to go try out some more of Sabotage Studios' games. Really, it's only one other game, which is The Messenger. So I have been playing a little bit of The Messenger, which is their game they came out with before Sea of Stars. Come to find out, The Messenger is actually, or I guess I should say, the Sea of Stars is in the same universe as The Messenger, which is kind of interesting. Kind of makes one of those ending cutscenes make more sense, where I'm like, that's a very random thing to show me. And then I started up this game. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes more sense why you showed me that.
Interesting.
But been very cool so far. It's very like old school, like almost like Legend of, like you could almost compare it to like a Legend of Zelda 2, or Zelda 2, I guess, and not Legend of Zelda, but yeah, Zelda 2 Link, not Link's Awakening. Holy crap, what is the name of that game? Zelda 2 Link's Adventure?
I think it's just Link's Adventure, isn't it? The side scroller.
Oh, is it? Yeah, the side scroller one. Is that just Link's Adventure?
I think so.
Oh man, I just had a big old brain fart.
It's like
I
the
can't
only
remember
one
that.
I've never even really watched play.
But yeah, it's definitely like a side scrolling, like go through levels. Very cool little thing too. They have some of the levels that are named the same and have the same music from Sea of Stars, except for the Sea of Stars version is obviously like all orchestrated up. So like Sea of Stars is a SNES game, whereas The Messenger is an NES game essentially. And so it's like all more chip tuned down in The Messenger. And so a lot of really cool crossovers that I didn't really realize, because, obviously I hadn't played the game. But very, very cool. I'm almost interested if this is kind of going to be Sabotage Studios' thing, where they kind of just make all their games
keep it in-house kind of deal.
Yeah, keep it all kind of within universe and stuff. That would be pretty damn cool. So excited to see what they do. But that's all I've been playing. HP, tell me about your 4 to 5 things you've been playing.
So these are all just we're gonna run by these. I feel like I did mention one of these last week, but I had to put it on here just in case I didn't. Dungeonborn. I don't remember if I talked about this. Did I say that?
You talked about it a little bit, yeah.
Okay, so I played that a little bit, and I might have played it a little bit more that night after damage check. I do like it. Like I said, man, I love the dark and darker. I love where the future of these I want to see where the future of these games go. Like, I'm not a big Tarkov guy, because I'm also not a big Battlefield guy or any of these. I know Battlefield and Tarkov are vastly different, but they get into this realm of like hyper realistic shooters or whatever, and Tarkov more so than Battlefield. But I'm just not into these like more open range, bullet drop off, that kind of. I'm just not my kind of shooter. So, and that being the only Tarkov being the only extraction game, Dungeonborn it captures my attention a little bit better, because I feel like it's more, like we talked about before, it's more of a game. It's not a life like a life sim or too serious. Or well, it is very difficult. It was very frustrating to die in certain ways in Dungeonborn, where like I'm getting matched up with a level 30 when I'm level 3. Like that stuff is just annoying. But whenever those nuances and those niche things kind of get worked out, and maybe they won't get worked out in a game like Dungeonborn, but the future of these extraction shooters, Marathon being one, because Bungie doesn't want it to be hardcore, I'm sure, right?
Yes, yeah.
They're I mean, even if it's hardcore, it's going to be very good, amazing gunplay hardcore. It will be a low barrier to entry, high skill ceiling, which is what I love about Halo and all their other games and Destiny and stuff like that. Low barrier to entry, high skill ceiling. So hopefully we can get more looter shooters or looter, whatever you want to call Dungeonborn, like that. So that is one thing that I did play a little bit more before the beta was over or whatever. And then I want to get into I played Tribes 3. It is a Quake-like boomer shooter.
Actually, I'm very interested in this one. Please tell me about it, because I didn't get a chance to play it.
Very fast-paced, and it's not for me, I don't think. I love boomer shooters. Don't get me wrong, man. I love Quake. I love Doom. I'm actually pretty good at them. I like to think so. But this one is so aerial and so not hit scan. There's projectile speed, and it is, the trailer will have you think you can do those things. You cannot, or at least I cannot. It seems like there's got to be like a meta and a way to like kind of shift the play in that game to where you kind of like follow I wouldn't say a theme, but like just a meta, I guess, in order to how to play it properly, because I felt like I couldn't do anything. Not that I was getting killed all the time, which I kind of was, but not like I was getting spawn camped or farmed or anything, but I felt like I couldn't actually fire at anybody. Like I feel like I was missing the shots. I had to lead too much, because like when you have to lead and the movement is insanely fast, I mean, you have to do some crazy geometrical calculations, you know what I mean? So the game was great, though. I mean, it felt great. It feels amazing, and it is the third one. I've never even heard of this series before, so I did have fun playing it. It's just not for me. Maybe if I got used to it in a different light, or if you're really into those Quake-like boomer shooters, go for it. Another game that I you know, all in all, it seems like it's very well made, so good on them for that.
Okay. This is one to stop you real quick. I actually am very interested in this one, because it does remind me of, like, obviously it is a boomer shooter. It's going back to the old Unreal Tournament days, and that's actually where I kind of cut my teeth on. I actually have gameplay over here in the side. This is where I kind of cut my teeth on shooters when I was a kid, was in Unreal Tournament. Right. So I'm all about that, like leading the projectile and like all that like really floatiness that makes it so that you have to like plan where you're going to shoot and everything. So this may end up being a big get for me. I'm really actually sad that I didn't end up playing it during Steam Next Fest. I was just too busy that week. But do you feel like there is, because these games have a high skill ceiling, do you think there's enough there that you could possibly see somebody, maybe not yourself, because you said it's maybe not for you, but do you feel like the skill ceiling is there to where a lot of people could be interested in getting back into this type of game?
Maybe not, because I don't think that this genre is dead, but I think you need something more grounded, literally and figuratively. Literally, because I mean, the game is 99% in the air, I felt like, which was totally fine. Yes. But maybe I just gotta play a little bit more or give it another shot. I don't know. There's something there that it felt like even the sniper, like I feel like I wasn't getting one shot kills. Maybe there's something to do with the loadouts that I need to change and alter to kind of cater towards that. And I played a couple classes and a couple different weapons, and every weapon besides the sniper rifle was not hit scan. They had projectile speed. So I mean, if you are some geometrical fucking calculating god, then I guess so. But I mean, I don't know. I think it's still I don't think it revives the genre, but I do think if you're in your own little pocket and you did like Tribes before and you like boomer shooters, I think this is definitely a game for you for sure. But I don't know if it's the new hotness.
Okay, that's fair. I don't even know. I don't even know if this type of game could be the new hotness ever again. I don't know if there's a, after years and years of the genre being dead, I just don't see people being able to take 10 to 15 years of shooter, like current modern shooter experience, and being able to go back to like 1999, 2000, 2001 shooter
Yeah, I
experience.
think that there's just
I
not
don't know
enough
if that'll
going
happen.
on.
Yeah.
I think that I mean, with battle royale brain and collecting and grabbing and collecting and moving and shooting and running and grapple shotting and the hill closing in, and there's 7,000 people versus each other. I think there's too much going on in those things to occupy someone's brain space in a boomer shooter. While boomer shooters are fast innately, there's only like 4 weapons, and typically, you know what I mean, there's not a lot going on compared to what they receive from a battle royale. So I could see, even if they were good at it and moving fast, they'd get bored of it rather quickly, maybe, in this state of the
those shooters were always about kind of like low selection but high skill ceiling.
Very high skill ceiling.
So, yeah. All right. Anyways, that was my tribe's interruption. Please continue.
So I should have put it on screen while we were doing that. So my apologies, but I will put this next one on screen for a little bit so you can watch it. This next one is something you talked about last week, but I did finally dive into, and I have a little bit to say about it. Was Stormgate.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Please tell me about your thoughts.
So I think this is the move. Like, and I got totally slapped in the face, by the way, by a friend of mine, because no, I don't mean because in this game, because I also did that too. But actually, I feel like it was a pretty even battle because neither one of us had a lot of units. He just had more than none. Which I pretty much had none, because I was just trying to figure it out. Well, a couple things before I get going into the game. I did get slapped in the face by a friend, basically, with this, because oh my gosh, I totally brain farted. I have no idea what I was going to say. Oh my gosh. Anyway.
Slapped in the face by a friend.
Yeah, and I don't remember why I was saying that. Sorry, it wasn't with this game. It was because of StarCraft. I looked into it. My friend Iron Man, shout out. He was like, well, if you want to play this, why wouldn't you just play StarCraft? And I'm like, well, StarCraft is also like 13 years old. I want to play a game that's fresh and new, you know? And so I was like, there's no way that there's a lot of people playing that game. Boy, was I wrong. StarCraft 2 still has like hundreds of thousands of players. Like maybe, I don't even remember what the number was, like 500,000. That blew my ever-living mind. I did not expect an old RTS. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not good. I think the game is amazing. I love StarCraft 2. Was I good at it? No. But I did not expect it to be way up there like that. So with this game, I think that is why. Now, StarCraft 2 was so good that I think that those people might not move away from it. But I think on release, this might actually, I wouldn't say compete with StarCraft, but I think it kind of funnels people over who maybe feel the same way I do. Because there's got to be 500,000 other people who aren't playing current StarCraft who would play this because it is newer and maybe have the same sentiment as I do, because I can't be the only one. Now, a couple of things that this game does, and I wouldn't say better than StarCraft, because I'm sure it's updated since I last played it, but a lot of StarCrafts, like, and I know you could change hotkeys and stuff like that, but from jump, innately, the hotkeys are QWERTY instead of like memory based, or like you know, B for build and P for pylon or whatever. So it's like, oh, it's Q for build, W for, you know, the first station in that build, E for the next station in that build, R for the next station, and then if you want to go down, it's like, oh, well, then I built W, so now I can do ASDF. So you're just kind of like rotating your hands on the keyboard as it goes, instead of having to do, which obviously is going to take a little bit more memory if A is for build or W is for build a supply depot. You know, that doesn't make sense in the brain, but it does make sense on the keyboard when you're playing a game as a gamer. So that's something, small quality of life thing that I thought was interesting, that you could obviously change in other games, but I think that starting off this way was really cool. So
yeah, and I definitely agree with you. Like, yeah, StarCraft 2 people, they're definitely ingrained into StarCraft. But I do think that there is going to be a large conversion rate, because StarCraft 2 is not getting updates anymore, and it's not going to get updates anymore.
I think it did just recently get a smaller update, but yeah.
Oh, did it?
I think Iron Man might be able to speak on that, but yeah.
But I mean, StarCraft 3 is absolutely not going to happen, at least anytime soon. I think maybe now with this whole Microsoft buy, maybe it'll happen. Maybe it'll be like, let's do this. But like, they make so much more money doing other things other than StarCraft that, I mean, unless they start selling unit skins or some crazy thing in StarCraft, I just don't see them wanting to make it. So I do think Stormgate has the opportunity to be the next head of that market, essentially. StarCraft will still exist and everything, but Stormgate, I think, has a really big opportunity to build upon that and kind of start converting some of those players over. And like you said, I do think that there is a large amount of people who like yourself or even like me that are like, oh, I haven't played that type of game that type of RTS in a long time. Let me go ahead and try out this new one. It's the new hotness. I'm not going to go back to StarCraft. I'm going to go forward into Stormgate, more likely.
Right.
And so I
think that's a bad thing for StarCraft, because I mean, it was the kind of the legend that paved the way for these competitive areas in these types of games.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I wonder if Stormgate does do really well. I wonder if that does make Microsoft and Activision go, maybe we do make StarCraft 3. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, could shake things up. And that's what we love. That's what we love here at Damage Check. At least.
Exactly. I want a little shakeup. I want a little shakeup. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And so this is another thing that so going on, there's not much else to say about that. I got clapped on my first and only game. Would love to try it again. I would love to buy it whenever it comes out, or whatever, if it is priced or not, or if it's free, or however they do it. So we'll see. But I'm into it. Moving on to, I did not play this, but I wanted to mention this slightly. The Overwatch 2 update is out, and it is wild. I've watched some videos, and guess what? If you were bad at video games before, go play Overwatch, because you can't miss now.
I did see this. I saw some TikToks where it's like, this is a headshot, and it's like,
oh wait, like, it's comically above their head, or
you're like, the hitbox for your head now in that game is like big head mode.
I think it's the other way around. It's the projectiles. They made all projectiles larger.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So the projectiles hitboxes are much, much, much larger than they've ever been. So Hanzos are just having very, very so much fun now.
Oh, I bet. Hanzos, Widows, anything with a precision shot, essentially, I imagine is just eliminating stuff.
It is insane that they would do something like that. But because all the other updates seem like very experimental, and I'm like, hey guys, wait a minute, you can't do that. Now I'm like, hey guys, you literally can't do that, because now your competitive shooter has turned into a clown show. So yeah, whatever. I'm sure everybody's seen those TikToks running around, but yeah, that's Overwatch for you now. Do still want to try that. Next on the list, one that I'm a little bit disappointed in. Not in the studio. They did a great job. It's very gorgeous, but the game Emberbane.
Yes,
I played that from Next Fest. Well, I said that it looked like the kind of very similar to the thing that I had visioned for us. You and I, we have we co-create. We have a gaming company and a game developing company, and we our very first project. This is kind of where I envisioned it. When I saw the trailer for Emberbane, I was like, wow, this is almost exactly how I envisioned our game. And when I played it, it's not. It really is not. Now, that suffice it to say, this game is gorgeous, and I'll put it up on screen here in a second. Right there. But this game is gorgeous, but it got so boring so fast. And maybe people could just kind of let it ride and stuff. I feel like why is it boring? I feel like the reason it got so boring so quickly is like the platforming. If we could get more platforming and get the abilities faster, or as a reward, it would be better. But I feel like you get into the game and it's like it wants to be a fighter, kind of pseudo Metroidvania fighter, and then it also kind of wants to be a platformer. But it also, with the Metroidvania, it wants you to gather and grab your upgrades for your abilities. But at the same time, that doesn't feel like a reward. Like, you just kind of like be a very, and I mean, when I say mini boss, it is like the miniest of mini. It's like you don't have to do anything. You just spam a button and then you kill this little mini boss and then you get a new upgrade. And so I didn't feel like I was being rewarded. And then all of the enemies absolutely none of the enemies, I mean, are not challenging, nor are they necessary. You can literally jump or run or dash through all of them. They don't mean anything. And so my whole question is, why have them then? If they don't drop like potions to heal yourself, power-ups to level up, or you know, whatever they want with this, I just feel like this game doesn't really I think it has an identity crisis. I think it wants you to fight stuff because it looks cool, but it's so boring. And so
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate because this art style is probably one of my favorite art styles I've ever seen in an indie game. I think it's so cute. It reminds me so much of like something like Celeste. Even the main character has red hair, looks like a nod to Maddie. I love this art style. It's beautiful. Every time I got an upgrade, I felt good about it, but I didn't feel good acquiring it. Like I felt good about using it. I didn't feel good about acquiring it. And once you get like the second or third fire ability, it's just a projectile, and literally, and I'm not joking you, every enemy can just be spammed with that. The melee guys will not make it to you, and your projectiles defeat other projectiles. So if somebody's shooting an arrow at you, you can just keep spamming your fire, and the fire will break that arrow and then hit him. So it's very pointless to even have enemies, in my opinion. But there's something here, man. I really wish I hate to have to say this to a company that I think that I love their art style and stuff. And I think that they had a cute vision, but I feel like they just didn't know where to go with it.
I mean, hey, this is kind of the great thing about Steam Next Fest is hopefully, you know, people play this game and people leave feedback and everything, and they're going to be able to go in and, you know, they still got time to develop it. They got all the time in the world, so they can go and kind of try to fix up some of those points. I do feel like this is a bit of like, I've kind of talked to you briefly about this before, where I feel like it's Metroidvania-itis, where like Metroidvanias for the longest time now have just been kind of like the last real Metroidvania that changed up the game and did something interesting was Hollow Knight. And since then, we've kind of just been making Hollow Knight, but not as good. Like indie developers in general have kind of just been making Hollow Knight, just not as good. And I feel like that's kind of been a core issue of the genre for a while. And I'm really waiting for somebody to come around and shoot some life into this genre to where it's not just more of that. But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe I've grown out of the genre, and those genre tropes are there because that's what people want.
This isn't it though. If you played this, you'd realize that this isn't. It's even to the point where this isn't even a Metroidvania, because even though it might technically be there, I still feel like it has an identity crisis. Like I feel like if I don't have to kill these enemies and I get no rewards for doing so, isn't it just a platformer at that point with enemies that are in the way? You know?
Yeah, they at least need to introduce like some sort of like level system. Like if you kill the enemies, you get a little bit of experience, or
even if you just
random...
refill your, like if they had added a mana bar to your, so you can't spam your abilities, and then you have to go back, kind of like Metroid does with missiles and stuff like that. Like just give me like an ammo consumption, or I don't even think they need that. If I'm being honest, I don't even think they need that, because I wouldn't want that. I would love to see this game with give me most or all, like put it in the Celeste format. Give me most or all of the abilities, and then let me do level to level based on those abilities that you gave me.
And see, I do think level to level is kind of making a comeback because of that, because you can make it a really interesting tool set and then have the environment affect the tool set. Your tool set never changes, just how you use it in the environment changes.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why level-based stuff is starting to make a comeback, because people are starting to realize that might be, at least when you're trying to make a smaller experience, that might be the better way to do it, is just have it to where you have a single toolbox. What's the cool stuff I can do with this?
Right. And then yeah, so I mean, unfortunately that's where that was. And then the last thing I have on my list of what I've been playing, so we've been on what we've been playing a little too long, but this one is so fun, and if you haven't done it at home, or you as well, Ford, I didn't get to talk to you about this. This is so fun. It's a little thing going around the internet right now called Infinite Craft.
Oh, I did see this. Yeah, I did see this.
Adore this. It's simple. It's a little word game, puzzle game, and basically you start off with fire, water, earth, and wind. And from those 4 elements, you combine 2 at a time, and you can infinitely get into anything. I mean, you name it, and you can literally get there. I mean, it is called Infinite Craft for a reason. Yeah. So Sirens and I went one day. I showed it to her a couple days ago in bed, and I was like, "Hey, name something random." Any animal or any noun or whatever. And she's like, okay, anaconda. And I was like, okay. So we went through and we were just laying up in bed, and we're merging water and bog and swamp and forest, and then we get rainforest, and then we we're doing all this stuff, and we ended up getting to anaconda relatively quickly, and it was very fun.
Very cool.
If you guys have not played that, highly recommend. It's so fun. It is so fun to just pick a random word, or if you're a streamer even, it's even better. Have your chat pick you a couple random words, and you have to get there by the end of the stream. Like, that's so fun.
Yeah, it is a neat little idea, neat little tool. I guess maybe not even tool is the right word, but yeah, I do think it's a neat little idea. Just to just see what you can make. And like you said, just think of a concept. Okay, what do I need to do to get there? It is a fun kind of like word puzzle, brain teaser type game.
Very fun.
Mm-hmm. Very, very fun.
And with
and that's what we've been playing.
Yep.
So let's get on into some of the bigger news of the show. Not a ton of news stories, but I think that each one has a lot of juice we can get from it and kind of talk about. So first, let's get into the title of this this week's episode, which is pretty much a bunch of the Xbox news. So we talked about last week how there was a bunch of Xbox rumors that they were basically going third party and everything was coming over. And it seems like that's not happening,
or
at least kind of.
Partially true.
Yeah, partially true. Some of the original ones reported are happening. Things like Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, Grounded, and what was the last one? Sea of Thieves. Those sound like they are more than likely going to be coming to other platforms. They had a little podcast meeting thing where they kind of didn't say a lot. You could definitely tell that this is not the way that they wanted to talk about this stuff, but the
leaks
news cycle, the leaks were out there, and the news cycle was getting too far away from them that they had to come out and basically be like, all right, look, this is what's happening currently. They did also in that talk about, they did confirm new hardware, that they are committed to hardware, and that they will have some hardware coming out this winter. Seems like it's probably gonna be like that, like half step, to like the next generation. And just kind of generally ranted about their feelings on how they're going to grow the Xbox base, which was like a lot of PR word salad, but essentially their whole thing is they think by releasing these 4 games out to other consoles, it can get people to be interested in the Xbox ecosystem, because they'll go, oh, well, if I could play this game, what about these other games that I can play over there? Yep. Which I think will, I guess, cutting off from the news, that's essentially the news. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that releasing these 4 games is the right move, for one? And do you think it's going to have the effect they think it's going to have, or do you think it's going to be better if they just start going more third party?
If that is the intent, what you just said, if that's the intent, I don't think so. I mean, there's got to be somebody out there that's like, whoa, this is what I've been missing. Oh, come on over. But that has got to be such a low percentage, right? Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine. I can only imagine the PlayStation, because I mean, PlayStation, if there's anyone winning, we talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago, it's PlayStation. And really, they're kind of not in a war anymore. They're kind of in a war with themselves, because they're just kind of working on their own things. The war has kind of been over in the console war stand, because like Switch is on its own thing too. But I think getting a game like Sea of Thieves, like Grounded, is like, while it's amazing, it's like, yeah, they probably already have 7,000 other survival games. That a new one is just like, oh, hey guys, do you want to go play the new one? But Sea of Thieves is in Hi-Fi Rush, maybe, I don't even know what Pentiment is, but Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush might be this, like, at the very least, Sea of Thieves, I think, would be an experience enough to be like, whoa, this is crazy cool. This is what we've been missing. Not, that's going to bring me over. I don't think it's going to pull people over at all. I think it's more just like, well, look at us Sea of Thieves guys. We got more people to play with now. I don't think that there's going to be anyone switching over. If that's their goal, that's a little weird of a goal. But I do think that that's something that they should do because they're going to make some money off of it. Because same thing we talk about every week with Switch or with Nintendo. If they just put Pokemon anywhere else, they would make billions.
Yeah, that would make insane amounts
So
of
it's the
money.
same concept. I mean, Sea of Thieves doesn't bring in Pokemon numbers, but Sea of Thieves is going to, and Grounded and all these games might bring in some numbers. So they can make some money off of it. I mean, is it super worth it? It's probably worth it for your player base to keep your game healthy.
Yeah, especially for those live service ones. Just adding the players itself is, I feel like, value added. I think Hi-Fi Rush will probably sell decent on other consoles. Pentiment's like a really niche game. I played Pentiment. Still need to get back around to beating it, but like Pentiment's super niche. I mean, they're not going to move huge amounts of copies of Pentiment on any other console. I think the audience that would buy Pentiment is the PC audience, because it's kind of like that weird niche like indie game that you get on PC that doesn't really go anywhere else. And so I don't think Pentiment's going to do much for them.
There you go. Yep. So I mean, that's kind of what I was saying too. So I just don't think it's the move. I don't think if that's their goal, like I said, I don't think it's the move. I think it is the move, like you said, for the live service games, but.
And that's what makes me wonder, like, once they start getting into games that have like a large multiplayer component to it, like, I don't know. I still sit in the camp to where I think stuff like Halo Infinite needs to go to these other consoles.
I would agree.
And
with
I get that that's like the poster child of Xbox, but at the same time, I do feel like that's the type of game that would actually make players go, oh, maybe I should check out Xbox. I don't know if these other 4 games are really going to do that. They'll make them some money, but yeah, the same as you were saying, I just don't think anybody's going to go, oh man, I've been missing out after they play Hi-Fi Rush or Pentiment. I think
that the only way you're going to get that is if there was like Halo Light they brought over, and then they're like, this is what you're missing out on, because it doesn't, like, PlayStation owners, unless you are very fortunate enough to have both, neither Xbox nor PlayStation owner are going to go to the other one. They might grab a Switch because it's like half the price of the other ones, but they're not going to go over to their competitor. Because I mean, did I see on these forums, and I could be wrong, I could be reading it wrong, I could be reading the loud minority, but I see these forums all the time on Reddit, on Facebook, on any like threads, whatever, and I see people saying, like, even despite saying themselves, the console wars are over, but I have my PlayStation, it would be cool to play Halo, but I'm not moving, or whatever. Like, they actively say these things, and it's like, of course they're not, because who's gonna, like, if Halo, especially if Halo comes over being the poster child, what else do they have left? Now there's other exclusives, but I mean, Halo is Halo. I mean, like you said, it's a poster child. You bring over the best of the best, they're definitely not coming over. And I don't think even if you didn't put the best of the best, they're coming over, because I think they're just going to say, cool, we got more games. I mean, see if these coming over, while it's a 6-year-old game, or maybe more than that, but while it's like a 6 to 8 year old game, they're not going to go, oh, we should go over to Xbox now that we got this new game. They're just going to say, well, we got this new game, let's play it on our console.
Yeah,
it's a weird marketing strategy if that's the strategy. I would really love to be a fly on the wall in some of these meetings.
I'm gonna bring in another story because I feel like it kind of links into this, because I actually do think that there could be a future where, with Xbox doing this, it could lead to some form of transition to their platform. And that story I'm going to bring in is PlayStation confirms that there will be no major releases from their first party studios in 2024. And I think that there is a way to get people over to Xbox, which is, if they're going to be releasing games, they've talked about before, the Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, has said, if we get, or they want to get to a point where they're having a major release every single quarter of the year, if not multiple major releases.
And then it'll be on Game Pass and
then it'll be on Game Pass and such like that. And so I think it could be death by 1,000 cuts, where it's like, oh yeah, you're going to get this game and this game and this game and this game. And eventually the PlayStation guys are going to go and look over, and they're going to like,
wait, we're not getting anything. Yeah.
I'm getting one major release a year, maybe. When over on Xbox side, it's like, oh man, we just got
for $15 a month, they're getting one every quarter.
Yeah, we just got Hellblade, we just got Indiana Jones, we just got Star Wars, we just got Blade, we just got blah blah blah. Like every 3 months, eventually they might go, damn man, like
I bought the wrong
I'm over
console
here like Yeah, I'm over here waiting for Horizon 3 that takes 5-6 years to make. And then I'm over here waiting for the next Last of Us, which is going to take 7 years to make. And so I do think maybe this is kind of a start of a strategy where if it does start getting to the point where your competition isn't releasing a major first party game within an entire calendar year, while you're over here, like Xbox is about to have a killer year. Xbox is about to release Hellblade 2. They're about to release the Aura Evolution Evolved or whatever, their RTS game. They're about to release Indiana Jones this year. Like they're about to have a pretty damn good year as far as like first party stuff is concerned. And so maybe this strategy will work in the long run. I still think that there is some validity to what you're saying though, where it is, if those games are still going to end up coming to the other, I guess I wonder what is the divide of what is going to come to other consoles and what is not going to come to other consoles.
Well, not only
right?
that, yeah. I mean, it's weird because even if none of them do, you're right. One game versus at the minimum 4, potentially more. But is it enough for? I mean, like I said, not everybody's fortunate enough to just be like, oh, I'll buy another console. I mean, are they selling their PlayStation in order for this? I doubt it, because they got the PlayStation for Spider-Man, Horizon. I mean, these are not games to sneeze at.
I doubt it, but I could see, once again, Xbox does have the best value with the Xbox Series S. That thing's only like $250, I think.
That's fair.
I mean, it's not super expensive. And again, you know, maybe they do buy the Xbox Series S and they're like, oh, I can get Game Pass for $15 a month. And I get all these games every single month or every single quarter. I'm getting like these massive releases.
I did hear about that because like PlayStation has their own variant of that, but it's not as good and stuff. So like PlayStation Plus gets some free games, but it's nowhere near the value that they get at the least market value of Game Pass.
Yeah, right now at Walmart, you can go buy an Xbox Series S for $220, and then tack on $15 for Game Pass a month.
Technically 10. Because I think you can just do the minimum is do the 10.
That's right. Yeah, I think you're right.
And you get a free month and a $2 month or something like that. So there's a lot of deals with that too.
And so I mean,
we're Xbox shills.
That's a deal, you know. I guess the bigger question eventually comes down to, is one God of War Ragnarok or Last of Us Part 2 or 3 or whatever, is one of those every couple of years the same value as 4 Xbox titles within a year?
It could. That's probably something they would have to weigh, because to some of those gamers, it is. I can see that, because I mean those are bangers. Last of Us, Horizon,
I take Spider-Man over anything Xbox has released. They released over the past couple of years.
I mean those 4 titles alone are bangers, and especially considering Halo has been overshadowed for the last 7 years.
Hey, but now PlayStation's got Helldivers though, you know, so I mean, you know, same.
Yeah, but us Microsoft PC users also do, but
yeah. And that's the thing, guys. I mean, PCs eventually is seemingly becoming the middle ground for everybody. So I mean,
yeah, you heard it, guys. Sell both your consoles and just get a PC.
I mean, honestly,
no, for real. Realistically, at this point, for sure. But obviously, they like their exclusives.
Yeah, and I don't want to wait 3 years for them to release Horizon 3 on PC, because they're going to have that dumb gap between it. But I don't know. It is interesting. I do think Xbox they are on the upswing right now as far as their games, their consoles, just the value that they provide. So I do wonder how this strategy is going to evolve. I do wonder if these 4 games are them kind of testing the waters, and then eventually maybe you do see these other games go. Because I still stand by what we said last week, which is I just don't think that exclusives are really, over the next 5 to 10 years, exclusives I feel like just aren't going to matter. Like, you're going to want your stuff everywhere. Right. You're going to want your 500, games are going to start costing $500 million to make in 5 to 10 years.
Well, we're almost soon enough. I mean, Spider-Man 2 was like
right
380
there.
or something. It was insane.
Yeah. We're like right there. So eventually it's going to be like, we got to get this game onto other places so that we can make some money, guys.
Yep.
But that is your Xbox news. Next one I got on the docket. Kind of talked about it in the beginning, but Helldivers is doing amazing. So much so that the meme suffering from success is definitely becoming tangentially tied to Helldivers, where they just keep on getting more and more players. It's interesting. I haven't seen a game do this in a while, where typically you get like your big burst over like the first week, right?
Right.
And then players start to slowly peter off. The next weekend, you're a little bit lower. The next weekend, you're a little bit lower. We just saw this with Power World, blew up on the first week, 2 million whatever players.
But you know what? I kind of want to
down.
mention that about Power World because that's fair. I mean, who's gonna like not all how many people bought it? Let's say 20 million or something. And not all 20 million people are going to play a survival game first off one game, let alone a survival game every day of their life. That's not even that long, and it's still in early access technically, and it's like no one's like, people aren't doing that. So like I saw that, and I know that they said that they weren't worried about it, but I did see a thing where people were like, see, I knew it was going to fall off. It's like, yeah, duh. I mean, 2 million people is still nothing to sneeze at, and also, dude, no one does that. No one is like, there's no PvP in the game yet, so there's nothing to keep you to come back besides like managing your base. But the base manages itself, and unless you own your own server, it turns off. If you're playing on your own, just like solo game or with local friends, it turns off when the game's off. And plus, there's no repercussions to anything even happening live anyway. Like your base can't really die, your mons can't, your pals can't really die, whatever. I digress. Go on with the Helldivers thing, but that's a tangential I wanted to ride because I've been seeing that too.
No, and I agree with that too. I saw that same news story. It's like, it's lost 75% of those players. Then I also kind of said the same thing where
they got their money.
And one, it's an upfront purchase. It's not a live service where they're making like, money on the back end. Like the money came up front. So they already made their money. And two, it's early access. People are going to jump off. And then as soon as the next big update comes out, 50 new pals just got released. People are going to hop back on.
And that's going to probably be free for the most part. I feel like those early PAL releases are going to be free. So people are coming back for no profit to the developers.
Yeah, so Power World is doing fine. Power World is still huge, guys. It's still doing fine. It's in the library of like 20 million people now, which means every single time there's an update, every single time there's a big thing,
everyone gets notified.
There's going to be a big spike. But Helldivers is kind of have the opposite thing where like every weekend they're adding like 50K new players to the point. So they've done server updates. They've gotten more servers every single weekend where they're like, okay, now we should be good. And then the next weekend comes around and they break their concurrent by another 50K players. And they're like, well, fuck. Now we're not good. Now servers are breaking again. And so it's been really interesting to see the rise of Helldivers. And just see how it just continues to grow more and more and more. And, seemingly, I guess more people are streaming it, which is getting more people interested in playing it. I'm hoping that they can get the server stuff together because if so, they will be in a very, very good spot. But I mean, they're already in a fantastic spot. Like I said, we already talked a ton of Helldivers in the beginning, but it's definitely going to be one I'll be keeping an eye on, and I will be playing it almost religiously.
Yeah. I mean, even that one is also an upfront cost, but it's also a live service. They're kind of double dipping and getting the benefit of both worlds. So, I mean,
I will say I have really enjoyed that you can get the premium currency just playing the game because I have not paid any microtransaction money yet. I have pretty much been able to, every armor set that's come up in the shop that I've wanted, I've had enough of the premium currency to pick up that armor set. And the only thing, I haven't bought the premium war bonds yet, which is like the premium battle pass essentially, but that's because the free battle pass is 9 pages of stuff. The premium one is 3 pages of stuff. So I kind of made the decision early on where I was like, I'm going to just finish the free one, get all the stuff in there. And then by that time, I'll probably have enough of the premium currency to buy the battle pass, the premium war bond for free or a very low amount of money, discounted essentially. I can buy for, $2 instead of the $10 that it typically is. But yeah, like I said, I digress. We talked a whole bunch about Helldivers in the beginning. So next story, first-person Mandalorian game is being developed by Respawn. If you guys don't know, Respawn did the the Star Wars Jedi series, Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. Wildly successful, and it seems like they're not done with the Star Wars universe, which, hey, I'm super stoked about. I mean, I think Respawn is still one of the best first-person shooter developers. I think it's them and Bungie have like the best feeling shooting across any game. And so them doing a first-person Mandalorian game, sign me the hell up. The story does go on to talk about a couple of other details, which is that it is aiming to be a more stylish shooter with things like health regeneration and such being tied to the ways that you dispatch enemies. With obviously you're going to have a big Mandalorian toolkit, just like if you watch the show, jetpack, grappling hooks, wrist rockets, all that kind of crazy stuff that the Mandalorians have. You'll have a huge arsenal. And it sounds like it is going to be very fast paced and kind of more towards almost like, it almost sounds like a spiritual successor to Titanfall in a way. Reading the news story.
Sign me up for something like that versus what they have now, like where they're more Souls-like. Don't get me wrong, they're great looking games. And I even picked the first one up for like $1 not too long ago, and I still have yet to try it, but I will. I just don't think that they're for me in terms of like being Souls-like. So give me a stylized shooter for sure.
Yeah, and once again, coming from Respawn, some of the best style shooters, like I said, Titanfall, I mean, you give me anything, if you give me something that's even half the feeling of Titanfall, I mean, sign me the fuck up. I am there day one. The one interesting thing is that the insider was asked if there was going to be any PvP element, and they said they were unsure yet if they were going to add in a PvP element or not. I think it'd be really cool to have a PvP element. Respawn, once again, their shooting mechanics are just so good that I'll take anything. But I would love to have a less Apex Legends, more Titanfall feeling shooter back in kind of my
But they're
rotation.
already doing another Titanfall, and we just got Titanfall 2 back, and they already have like the Battlefront series. So maybe pull that on the wayside until we figure out what the game is going to be and how good it's going to be. I don't know.
But Battlefront's dead. They're not updating it anymore. Titanfall 3 is not happening according to them. I mean, we did get Titanfall 2 back, which I have played Titanfall 2 games, and I've been like, man, I freaking love Titanfall 2, man. Let me tell you what. But I really want a PvP Star Wars shooter. I'm shocked that I'm shocked that they dropped support for Battlefront 2 just when Battlefront 2 was on the upswing. Like, they were doing fantastic, amazing updates, and then they were just like, we hate money. Bye.
Well, they definitely love money because of if you remember the early stages of EA.
Yeah, the early stages of the game. But
that was atrocious.
I'm hoping that Battlefront 3 is still a thing that is going to happen one day. I feel like I doubt it. DICE has just been going through hell. So I feel like probably not. But yeah, once again, if it's just a PvE shooter, fuck it, I'll take it. You know, I ain't gonna complain. I'll take the food I'm given. But man, I would love to have a Star Wars PvP shooter back into the mix, man. There's just something about Star Wars, you know. It's just so goddamn good. I just could play it forever.
Yeah, I mean the lore and the universe just goes so deep, and there's so many things. You can literally do anything you want. I mean, imagine. I mean, Titanfall. Just make them AT-ATs. Make them. There's a million different ways you can kind of take the. I mean, look at Battlefront. I mean, it alone had so many. Instead of just land, two guys shooting at each other combat with just laser guns, it was like there was like lightsaber battles in there. There were vehicles, yep. And yeah, there's all kinds of different stuff. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind exploring that space. I mean, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, but explore that space. You have a very vast, quite literally vast universe to explore in Star Wars.
Literally. Yep. So here's hoping. Side note, man, I really hope Battlefront 3 happens. If not, I'll take this Mandalorian shooter. But man, I really hope Battlefront 3 happens. Next up, Switch 2 may not actually be releasing in 2024, as rumors previously said.
That makes sense to me.
A new report's come out that it has been delayed to January to March timeframe for release. HP, you're my Nintendo guy, so I'm gonna let you take this. You tell me what's up.
It makes sense. I mean, look, I feel like if it was going to be released this year, we would have had way more hype by February 17th. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we would have seen a lot more stuff. We haven't heard. The only thing I've ever heard about Switch 2 is all random people. It's never been Nintendo. We haven't even. I mean, we've seen one Direct this year so far, and I think we're about to get another one either next week. Yeah, I think next week I don't know if they've officially said it, but there should be a direct. There should be a direct here soon, and I feel like that would be maybe the latest that we would see something about the Switch 2, because like if it's going to come out this year, there's no way. So to be honest, January by next year, I mean, that is so early for me. And I mean, I know Switch has been out for a while, but I don't think it's like unexplored or anything, but I do feel like it's still, maybe I'm just getting old and time is just flying by, but I feel like it's still kind of in its infancy. And I don't mean it like it hasn't been explored to its full potential, because it's not hardware, it's not anything impressive, but I mean, we still got games coming out for it. I still don't think that, I mean, like games like Paper Mario and the Origami King look great on it. You got Peach's Showtime that's going to probably be pretty hot. All these new remakes that are coming out for it. I think that these games just they are what they are. Like, do they need to press the hardware so much? Is that why they need to make this shift? Go ahead.
Here's the thing: is that those are the horsemen of the apocalypse. Princess Peach Showtime and Origami King and Thousand Year Door coming and all that stuff. Those are the games that are telling you we're imminent. You know, we're not getting the major releases. We're not getting 3D Marios. We're not getting all this other stuff. It's basically at the end of its life cycle. I mean, the thing's been around by the time, you know, if it does come out when this rumor is saying it, it'll be 8 years old. That's a long life cycle for a console. And so I do think we are imminent on it. I would not be surprised if we do get a direct this month, which I'm sure we will. I feel like it's going to mention a Switch. At the very least, they'll say we have a console coming out. No details, but we have a new console coming.
I agree that it's old, but I don't think that, like I said, I don't think it's dying. It might be at the end of its life cycle because of consumerism. We need new shiny, but I personally don't think that they need the new hardware. I mean, I guess if they want to do, because I mean, like, if they just made a Mario Odyssey 2, same engine, same graphics, same everything, I am not disappointed. Now, they could sell a whole nother Switch to me, and they're going to get it out of me anyway, so why not do that, of course. But yeah, you're probably right. You can't say that, I mean, these might be the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, but I mean, we did get a 2D Mario, which is the next best thing to a 3D Mario. I mean, those are in my opinion on the same timeline, because man, I don't know if you played it yet, but Mario Wonder is it is a wonder. It is a marvel. That is probably one of the best side-scrolling games I've ever played.
See, and I think that for me as a consumer, at least, you know, me out here just consumering, you know, I do want a upgraded Switch console. I wanted an upgraded Switch console basically since the Switch came out and Breath of the Wild could barely run inside of the Lost Woods. And it was like breaking down to like 10 to 15 frames. And so I definitely do want a new console. I agree with the fact that I don't think art style wise I'm feeling lacking necessarily, but I do feel like performance wise is the next leap that I want to see in Nintendo software. I don't need the next Zelda to really look that much better than what the current Zeldas have looked like, because they've looked pretty good. You know, sure, they don't really glow grass that well, but I mean, I can live with that. Art style is fantastic. I'm fine with Zelda looking like what it looks like right now. I just want it to run better is my big thing. And that's what I want to Switch 2 for, is you can keep everything the same. Give me Mario Odyssey 2 and have it look like Mario Odyssey 1 with maybe a little bit of upgrades.
I hate to always have pushback, but what does Tears of the Kingdom not run well for you? Because there's no loading screens from the sky. I mean, the map is bigger than most games you play right now. I would argue that it's one of the biggest maps in gaming currently. Now, obviously, like you got your GTA and your Elden Rings, but currently in the state of like within the past year, because it's not even a year old, it's not even close to a year old yet. There's not a game that has a bigger map than that I know of in terms of the sky, the land, and the underneath. And have zero loading times. I mean, look at Starfield, for Christ's sake. You load every time you open a fucking treasure chest.
I mean, yeah, Starfield's a whole nother topic, but don't get me wrong. I think what they've done with Tears of the Kingdom.
My question was, where's your performance issue with Tears? There isn't. I mean, there's not
frame rate, and then also
frame rate issues.
I've definitely had frame rate issues, but typically it's usually in those transitional moments. Like if you're going from sky to land, there's like a little bit of like frame rate stuff. It's not enough to really break me out of it. But I could always have it run better and
For
have
sure.
it
I
look
mean, I'll
a little bit
sacrifice a
better.
few frames for 0 loading times, but
No, yeah, and once again, I do think with that what they've accomplished with Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch is like a marvel of engineering. Honestly, the fact that they got it to run on the Switch is incredible. The way that it runs. But I do think that there is a lot of wiggle room to get to a point where we are having better performance. We are having, slightly better graphics. Like I said, I don't really need like a ton of changes necessarily to the art style. But I think that it is time for a new Switch. And interestingly enough, Nintendo a lot of times when they switch to new consoles, I do feel like they usually have like a new gimmick to it. I feel like this is going to be one of the first real ones
I
where
really hope that we don't get a new gimmick.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more iterative. I think they've kind of I think they found what they need to make. Before it used to be we have the consoles and we have the handhelds. We got the Wii and we got the DS, and then we got the Wii U, and then we got the 3DS, and so on and so forth. And I feel like with the Switch, they've really kind of hit what I think Nintendo is, which is a toy that you can take with you anywhere, essentially, and have that enjoyment with it. And so I'm hoping that this next one is really just iterative. I do not need it to have. Here's the dongle thing you put on your head, and then it has head tracking or somewhere.
I don't want that.
I don't need it. Just give me an iterative Switch. Give me this. Literally, give me the Switch Pro or the Super Switch, whatever you want to call it. Give me the next Switch. That's all I need.
I love Super Switch.
Dude, Super Switch. I don't think they're going to do it because I think Wii U has scared them off from doing any sort of iterative language in their in their consoles.
Right, because then people will just think it was an upgrade. Same with the Wii U. They thought it was an upgrade.
They're like, oh, is it just something you add onto your Wii, or is the Super Switch just something you add onto your Switch? I think that they unfortunately will probably just go with Switch 2. Nintendo makes weird enough decisions that I could see them being like, fuck it, we're going Super Switch. But I think that their Wii U kind of burned them on that. But I don't know. Maybe audiences are smarter now. Who knows? The gaming audience has increased.
Wii U also didn't really have much selling point besides that I know of Mario Maker. I mean, there were other good games on it, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, people are just. I think a lot of the confusion came from like, is it just the pad that I'm adding to the Wii? And then at that point, we're like, oh, I don't really care about that.
Well, especially because you could use the old controllers. That was what was even more weird. It was like you can use the old Wii controllers.
Yeah, well, but I mean, same thing here. I bet when we get the Switch, your Joy-Cons currently are going. Yeah, you're still going to be able to use your Joy-Cons. There'll probably be like a new version of the Joy-Con, sure, but you'll be able to use your old ones, I imagine, just fine.
Yeah,
and so I don't know. I was kind of hoping for the release this fall, but at the same time, I mean, if it comes out early next year, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think that's fine. There'll be maybe a little bit of a dead period between. I think the last big game we're gonna get then is probably Thousand Year Door, I guess.
Peach's Showtime next month.
Yeah, next month.
Thousand Year Door, and there's another one that I was looking forward to.
Luigi's Mansion 2 remake or whatever, like the DS one.
Yeah, or three. Yeah, but that's not. That's yeah. I guess that's a big one. The Dark Side of the Moon or whatever for everybody.
Yeah, Dark Side of the Moon or whatever. And that's what I mean. Like, and that's why I say these are the horsemen, because these are not. These are the games you're like, okay, we released our last big game with Tears of the Kingdom and Wonder. Now we're just going to kind of have a couple of like interesting little smaller games as we lead into, because, we're going to want Super Switch to have Metroid Prime 4 and the new 3D Mario and whatever.
And 4 is already definitely in development, so they're probably pushing it towards that new console. So
yeah,
I bet, you know what, since we haven't had a first person Metroid in a while, that might be one of the launch titles.
I hope so, man, because I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they announced Metroid Prime 4 forever ago, and then about 3 years after they announced it, they're like, yeah, so that didn't really work, so we're gonna start over from scratch. And we basically have not heard anything since then when they said they were starting over from scratch.
A lot of those assets and stuff were probably reused for the Metroid Prime remake. So
sure, yeah. Hey man, if Metroid Prime 4 is there day one on Super Switch, guess who's buying a Super Switch day one? It's this guy.
I mean, I'll be there too. I do want to, before we get off of the Switch topic, I do want to, since you mentioned, and it wasn't me this time, you mentioned Zelda. I want to just say one thing. I had a friend recently. This is more for you and not the viewers, but I mean, if you guys haven't touched or played or beat Tears of the Kingdom, here's the opportunity to do so. Just vouching from my friend. I had a friend the other day whose actual birthday it is today. Happy birthday, Tuba.
Happy birthday.
He recently, it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, he was, because he something happened to his computer, blah blah blah, he had more time to play the Switch, and he was like, hey man, I want to let you know I beat Tears of the Kingdom, and not only did I beat it, I did what you said. And I was like, what's that? And he's like, I got all the tears first and then I beat it. And he's like, man, you were absolutely right, that is the way to beat the game. And I said, I knew it. And I'm so just a little told you so HP section.
You know, maybe that's what you have to do. You have to find a way to implant a virus into my computer that'll kill it for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I'll have no choice. I'm like, all right, fuck it. I get
to be fair, if I didn't stream most of the Nintendo games, I probably wouldn't be finishing up either. So, I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm still stuck on Sea of Stars because I haven't been streaming this week because of the medical stuff. So,
yeah, I gotta get back to that Legend of Zelda. But you know,
you know what? I don't want you to with that face you followed up with. I don't want you to anymore. Forget it.
No, I'll get back to it.
You look like someone told you to eat that last bite of food on your plate, then you're just too full. You're just like, ugh.
You're like, oh man, I gotta do that. Oh, please, God, no. And no, I definitely want to get back to it. I mean, here's the thing: is you know, people that I trust, you included, all tell me that it's worth it, that the ending is like, it all comes together and ends perfectly, and I got
really is
like many people. And so
I know I mention it all the time, and it's kind of like the meme and stuff here because we have this back and forth pushback and stuff, but it really is. It is a fantastic experience, and all I want to do is share that experience, because I didn't tell you to go beat Mario. I mean, I think that if you like 2D platformers, you should play Mario Wonder, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter, but Zelda matters. It
does. I think you will benefit from it. But I still think you want me to pick one or the other, that or AOT. I still think AOT is the move. It's a crime against humanity that you haven't finished that show. But anyway,
I know. This is the Fjord is bad at finishing stuff section. All right, and then last news story we got: Call of Duty is getting laid up with a lawsuit from a couple of pro players.
So you're going to have to go into this section for me because I didn't read up on this, but I did see the headlines and I was curious. So treat me like a little baby and teach me things.
So explaining like I'm 5. Basically, the lawsuit is saying that Activision Blizzard has engaged in antitrust violations, essentially.
Actually, should we start out how much is this lawsuit supposedly for? It's quite a lot.
Man.
It's a very large lawsuit.
680 million?
680 million? I thought it was like 380, but either way, that is a massive lawsuit.
They're seeking at least 680 million, alleging monopoly over Call of Duty leagues and tournaments. Okay, and this is where I kind of think that they might have a case, which is basically Call of Duty, or I guess we should say Activision Blizzard in this instance, essentially locks down any form of tournament you can have for Call of Duty. So anything that is associated with Call of Duty tournament-wise has to go through them and through their league, which they are claiming violates antitrust laws and anti-competition laws, because there's no other way to have a tournament without going through the Call of Duty League CDL or something along those lines. In the CDL co-conspirators. It also says that because of this
basically,
monopoly,
wait, let me see if I get this straight. So they're basically saying these lower tier companies can't really have access to these tournaments legally because the COD League won't allow them to.
So the lawsuit is specifically because they will not allow pro players to participate in any tournaments other than the Call of Duty League tournaments.
Well, I mean, are they not contractually obligated to them, or?
Yes, but so the lawsuit is essentially saying that this is engaging in antitrust because they're using this to essentially gouge the teams. So to get the numbers, I have the article still up right here because it's pretty aggressive. Yeah, so I'll just read this verbatim. Activision announced the formation of the Call of Duty League, a closed league that the company capped at 12 permanent teams, modeled after traditional sports leagues, and coerced the teams to pay Activision a $27.5 million entry fee to participate. In addition, teams were required to give Activision an unconditional 50% share of the revenue the team generated from ticket sales, sponsorships, and any other revenue streams, as well as cede to Activision the exclusive right to contract with the lucrative sponsors and broadcasters such as cable television and streaming networks. According to the suit, CDL teams also are forced to refrain from participating in or supporting any professional Call of Duty leagues or tournaments. These rent-seeking trade and restraint contractual provisions impermissibly enriched Activision at the expense of the professional Call of Duty players and teams that were now under Activision's thumb, the lawsuit said.
So that that makes sense, but then it's like, well, so it's one thing to be like, oh, hey, we're being exploited. It's another thing to, you are the one who signed the contract. Am I missing something here?
No, it's pretty much just saying that the contract is in violation of antitrust laws. It's basically saying that this contract is insinuating a 100% monopoly over any sort of professional form of Call of Duty you would want to do, or professional tournament atmosphere you would want to create, and therefore it breaks antitrust laws because you're not allowed to have a 100% monopoly. There needs to be some form of way that if I'm event coordinator Y, I need to be able to have the ability to go to Activision and say, hey, I want to run X, Y, and Z event. They can give me terrible terms, but there needs to be some form of way of doing that.
Yeah.
Of availability, or else you're in antitrust violation laws.
Interesting.
And then
I wouldn't think that they would have contractually obligated someone before they created, or before they realized they were breaking the law. It's interesting. I mean, obviously that happens all the time, but that's why those laws are in place. I didn't think that it feels like such a rabbit hole to get down that they wouldn't have missed that. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, and it's definitely one of those things where I think that Activision probably just kind of thought they could get away with it. I mean, this isn't the first esports suit to happen, and a lot of this esports stuff that's going on, especially right now, is definitely kind of get the money and run. A lot of people are getting in, exploiting people, and then getting the hell out, essentially. And so I think that's a lot of what's happening. So these guys are suing to essentially say that you can't just get the money and run, essentially. I think this case actually has some validity to it. I think this could actually end up going through. I don't know if it'll actually end up going to courts. It might get settled out of courts and they'll discuss like different contracts or something like that. So I don't know if this will actually end up going to courts or not. But it is very interesting. The world of esports is in a very interesting spot right now, especially since a lot of these esports, straight up, yeah, these esports teams get extremely taken advantage of.
They definitely get exploited for sure. And but then some of them, FaZe Clan, exploits people too. They do the exploiting.
100%. But I mean, if I'm a pros team and you're saying like, wait, if I sell a t-shirt of my team, my branding, my everything, and I have to give you 50% of that, that's insane to me.
That's what's weird to me on that front specifically, because they did sign that contract. Now, if they're breaking laws to get to this place, sure. But if you're like, yeah, I'll sign it. I mean, that's like kind of like signing contract 101. Read the fine print. If you don't want to give up 50%, don't sign a contract that says 50%. Now, obviously, if that's your only way to get into the business, that's scummy and it sucks. But if that's the way that they're getting there illegally, and they are violating antitrust laws, then that's different. But if it's just black and white, which I know it's not, it never is. But if it's just black and white and it's 50% on paper, and then they're just like, yeah, I'll sign that, and then they're like, I have a problem with that. It's like, dude, you signed it. So, but I do see what you're saying with them breaking the law. That's different.
I do think there's a little bit to be said about like you're taking a gamble when you're signing that kind of contract because you're hoping there's no data to go off of with esports really right now. And so you're essentially hoping if I get into this, if I'm one of those permanent slots, even though they're taking 50%, maybe that other 50% is still going to be a huge amount of money. You know, maybe I'm going to sell.
Yeah, but when you're making deals that you think are, you can't go, like, you still need your equity. You know what I mean? That's just kind of business 101.
I mean, yeah, but that's when you're talking about brand new businesses, essentially, or brand new, like,
I'm not saying that these people aren't sharks, because they are sharks.
Yes, they are. But I guess my whole thing is when you're getting into a business that you, once again, there's no data on this kind of business. Yeah, your first ones in are always going to be taking a gamble. It's a financial risk, but you're essentially risking it to see how well this can pay off. Because the only real data you got to go off of with esports on any long-term form is Riot Games. Those guys are the esports guys.
Fair. And I do agree that, you know, it is a little odd for it to be like your likeness or your team that you created, your full now obviously if it's like you at the event making the money from the tournament that they are providing, that's a whole different expense, 50%, even more sometimes, probably worth it, because they're setting up this venue for you to even be able to be exposed to so many people. But when it comes to your branding, your team, your name, you should own a little bit more than that. So I would agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. And then that's pretty much the news that we got as far as the big stuff. We did have a small little subject. HP, if you want to take the reins on this, this is just kind of going to be a fun little, you know, we want to talk about something and kind of something we've been observing.
Yeah, so recently, and there's probably many more than this, but I'm going to name 3 of them, just to name a few. We've mentioned one, I believe last week on the podcast or a couple weeks ago, but N64 style platformers are all the rage. They are coming back with a vengeance. Finally. It is insane. And because it's not just the gameplay, it's also the look. And that's something that's super interesting to me because, you know, just 15, 20 years ago, just after they, you know, because they peaked kind of in 1998, 1999-ish, in the early 2000s, about 20 years ago, which is insane to say, it started to phase out of like, oh my God, you play Mario 64? That looks so atrocious. But look where we are now. I mean, now people still play Mario 64. But in 64 stylized games, it used to be, they look so awful. Well, look where we are now. You got games coming out like Celeste 64, Corn Kids 64, and Cavern of Dreams, just to name a few. There's quite a few more in development, and there's a few more out there that I didn't even mention. But if you guys are into 3D N64 style platformers, go check out Cavern of Dreams. Celeste 64 is free, so go check that out for sure. But Corn Kids 64 and Cavern of Dreams are very, very cheap on the Steam store, and they might be on. I think Cavern of Dreams is also on Switch. Corn Kids I don't know about, but they look fantastic. I have not yet played them. I have watched gameplay of both of them. They are all 3 of them, and they look great. Celeste 64 might not be my jam, just because of how much I like Celeste and the reason I like Celeste, but I could probably play it. It's kind of like I feel like it's a completely different game. But yeah, man, I just love to see this stuff come back, because now we went from like retro looking, you know, things like Blasphemous looked retro. Now we're getting into this age of like N64 style games now are retro. And it's like, and so it's like, oh, I remember these old games, and it's like these are these games that I don't know, I didn't think would be a stylized take on creating modern games, and here we are. I don't know when that stops. I mean, do we stop at the graphics we have today in 50 years? You know what I mean? So I don't know where that goes, but yeah, I mean, what do you think? This is your jam. You like these genres, right?
Oh, dude, yeah. So the funny thing is that, you know, time is a flat circle, you know, because I did a podcast a very, very long time ago. Back in 2014, I had a little podcast called The Game Gods. Don't go look it up; it's awful. But
I'm gonna get my watch later.
We specifically had an episode where I gushed because a little 3D platformer was coming out called Yooka-Laylee.
Yes.
And it was going to be the spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie. And I was on it, and I was like, guys, ukulele is going to be the greatest thing in the world, and it's going to bring back 3D platformers. And obviously that didn't happen, which much to my dismay, because these N64 PlayStation 1 style 3D platformers are kind of some of my favorite things. Like, legitimately, I love this style of game. I love these, I know they're just collectathons, but man, I love myself a good collectathon. You know, I love going to the little corners and finding the little things and all that. And so you bringing this up did make me realize the Renaissance is happening now. I thought it was going to happen years and years and years ago back on that podcast. And I was talking about, I'm like, oh, the Renaissance is coming. It's here, blah, blah, blah. But the Renaissance is happening now. And I'm very excited to see what we get out of it. I didn't even know what Cavern of Dreams was. And I just looked it up right now as you were talking.
Aren't you happy?
And holy shit, dude. I want to buy this game so bad.
I think it's already out.
It is already out. So I'm probably going to end up buying this.
And it's also on Switch, which is interesting.
But then I looked at all these other games, you know, they have this little retro 3D bundle thing too. And I'm like, man, do I just buy the retro 3D bundle and just play all these games? So I'm super excited for the return of this stuff. I absolutely love this style of game. And I do think there's a lot that can be done with this game. Again, I'm actually going to kind of go back to what I said before, which is toolkit plus level equals awesome game design. Give me a single platforming toolkit and put me in interesting levels, and I'm gonna have a great time, man. It's why Banjo-Kazooie is awesome. It's why Banjo-Tooie is awesome. It's why even the Donkey Kong game, Donkey Kong 64, is awesome, despite a lot of people really not liking that game.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I have a friend, Kai Parasite, shout out. He does not like that, but Donkey is his favorite IP of all time, and I love that game. It's weird.
But well, here's the thing. The criticism that usually goes for Donkey Kong 64 is it is like ultra bloated. It's like 6 collectathons in one game.
For sure.
Because you have all the different characters who can only collect certain things. And I get that criticism, man. But as a kid, oh, dude, I loved it. It was the biggest
sandbox open world game you've ever played. It was
huge
crazy.
Sandbox. Everybody had their own special toolkits that allowed you to do cool things, so you could explore these levels in different ways. I think Donkey Kong 64 was like ahead of its time. I legitimately think it was extremely ahead of its time. And like I said, I'll cede it's a little bloated.
Speaking of I want to just touch on this real quick. This is another small segue. I don't think we mentioned it last week, but it was news last week. The Direct is coming out soon for Switch, for Nintendo, right? And when that usually happens, they kind of do a little bit of a foreshadowing thing, and they put something at the eShop. So do you know what the picture is at the eShop this time?
Oh, what is it?
It's Donkey Kong.
Oh, man.
And so people are speculating we're either getting another side-scrolling Donkey Kong, or we're getting that rumored years ago open world Donkey Kong.
Yeah, open world Donkey Kong. Dude, I'm so there if it's the open world.
On a 3D open world Donkey Kong. I'm all in.
So into that.
But I digress. I'm glad that you think that Cavern of Dreams looks amazing, because I do as well. And these games are only like, I don't know how much Dreams is, but Corn Kids and Dreams both, I could probably get them both for $10 total. It's like $7 and $2 or something. It's not much.
Cavern of Dreams is a little bit on the pricier side. It is currently $12.99 right now.
I mean, though, then, and then Corn Kids is like $6.
I'm really hoping that we do. I'm hoping that this is not a false start to the Renaissance, because Yooka-Laylee was a false start to the Renaissance, man. I was so hyped for that game, and I still loved Yooka-Laylee. I thought it was a great time. I know people had a lot of issues with it. I think that's more so just people played it that aren't a fan of the genre. But I digress. I'm really hoping this is the true start to the 3D platformer Renaissance. I really want these games to come back. I really want people to start really exploring what you can do in this space. I mean, look at Hat in Time, man. Hat in Time is like one of the greatest platformers. I don't like 2D, 3D. I don't care. One of the greatest platformers ever created. It is so goddamn good.
Yeah, it is probably the best successor we could have gotten to a Mario 64 style.
100%. 100%. And so
I mean, it was Odyssey before Odyssey, you know?
Maybe this is an instance, HP, where it's like, you know what, I'll do it myself. I got to go make my own 3D platformer or something one day to bring forth the Renaissance. But Yeah, I think that if we can get more of those PlayStation, I know this whole section is basically a tangent, but to go on another tangent, like I just played the Spyro Reignited trilogy not too long ago, maybe 5-6 months ago. I played the first game, and that first game is like platforming perfection, man. It is like legitimately one of the best platforming experiences ever. And I feel like people are starting to wake up to this fact that 3D platformers can work, they can be awesome, and now's one of the best times to start making them. And don't even try to make it like, I feel like one of the problems Ukulele had too is they tried to make it a lot bigger than it needed to be. You don't got to make it massive, have it be just like 4 to 6 levels with a really neat toolkit. Go in there, have a great time with that toolkit, and then get out. I think that's how much Hat in Time had. I think Hat in Time only had like 5 levels to it. But they were freaking awesome levels. They were phenomenal levels.
They're massive. I mean,
and massive.
The content in that game, it goes so deep.
Man, do you, extra side tangent. Hat in Time 2. Do you think that ever happens? Do you think we ever get another Hat in Time?
I actually have I don't know if they're still actually active in chat, but there's a couple chatters, or one chatter in here specifically that is, or maybe they're not in here today, but typically they are, and they are a Hat in Time speedrunner. With no, I don't know about world records, but pretty close. I mean, they might even be top 10 for all I remember. But anyway, they and there's a couple other Hat in Time players, obviously Sirens being one. But yeah, so I'm pretty familiar. I think that it would be expected via the wild, it was so wildly successful. You know what I mean? That's a good question. Who are they? What are they working on?
Let me check.
Because I could see it. I mean, why not? It was so massively successful.
I mean, because they came out with some DLC, and then they did Gears for Breakfast is the team. They came out with some DLC, and then they added in like the level editors and level makers and all that kind of stuff. Gears for Breakfast games. Yeah, their only game is still just it's still just Hat in Time.
Yeah, we're getting a second one. We're definitely getting a second one.
Oh man, be still my heart.
Or it might be one of the other, it might be a like a side sequel where they do like a different character instead of doing Hat Kid. They could do another kid that's one of her friends.
I mean, yeah, I'll even take a spiritual successor to it. I don't need it to be a Hat Kid still, but I want them 3D platforming games, baby. It's what I need. It's what I want.
Absolutely.
But that's pretty much my rant on that. I'm super excited for the Renaissance, but that Renaissance is still maybe a little bit away.
I mean, we got 3 great ones here. I mean, Celeste 64, Corn Kids, and Cavern of Dreams. Go check them out. At the very least, Celeste is free.
Do you think Celeste 64 goes anywhere? You think that becomes a full thing?
I don't think so. Because I feel like before that they would probably much rather do, unless they want to go into that 3D space. I don't know. I haven't heard anything from Maddie, but I think that I would assume that they would want to do Celeste 2 before they did a 3D version, because you lose a lot, despite it being counterintuitive. I feel like you lose a lot of your omnidirectional in 3D space, because I mean, how are you going to do the controls to dash in different diagonals in a 3D space, control wise? But Celeste 2, give me that. The moment that Earthblade is done, start working on Celeste 2, because I'm so excited. I loved the little demo. It was so cute.
Oh, that's right. They are working on
Earthblade.
They are working.
Comes out this year, I believe.
So maybe after that. But all right, that is all for the small stuff. HP, you got anything else for me today?
Nope, I think that is it. Ford, where can they find you?
You guys can actually find me not on Twitter anymore, but on Threads instead. I have switched over to Threads. You can find me at Eric Fordham, my actual name. Currently, it is more of a writing profile. I will probably be making a as Fjord title. Or a Threads account here pretty soon. So just keep an eye out for me as Fjord over on Threads. I've actually been having a great time over there. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitch and you can find me on YouTube. And those are pretty much the spots I'm at right now. HP, where can they find you?
Threads sounds interesting. I might want to jump on that train, but I also don't like to use social media too much, except for just to kind of keep everybody updated. But I might check it out because it seems interesting.
I would honestly. It reminds me of old school Twitter days where the engagement is real. It's not just advertisements. Like you actually have conversations.
I mean, literally, comments now on Twitter or X are just like every time I click comments to see the thread, if you will, the comments are just advertisements for everything, including porn. So, yeah. So it's kind of crazy. So yeah, I might check it out. We'll see. But they can find me anywhere. Heretic Plays. Literally type in Heretic Plays anywhere. YouTube, Twitter. I don't really do a lot of Twitter, but Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the main video style platforms. You can find me at Heretic Plays. But more importantly, Sirens my wife has been doing so well on her YouTube channel. Her growth is astronomical. Go check her out at Sirens Sketches on YouTube. She's got the cute little girly avatar waving in her. It's like it's art style channel. So cozy vibes there. Definitely go check her out. She is moving. I was advertising it for a while on other platforms and like Reddit and stuff like that. I haven't touched these last few videos, and this video that was uploaded just yesterday has already been has succeeded beyond the last week's video in a day. So doing amazing. So find her at Siren Sketches on YouTube and Instagram. And that's all.
Yeah, I've been watching that as well, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. They've been fantastic videos.
Thank you, buddy.
All righty. Well, with that, you guys have a wonderful gaming weekend. We'll talk to you later.
See you guys.